Hey everyone, we're going to be reviewing a flight I haven't yet seen on YouTube, the Air Transat flights operated by Smartlynx. Ours was from Rome to Toronto back at the end of June, and apologies for the lack of B-roll footage that I noticed a bunch of other flight reviewers use. It's not till you get back and start going over the footage that you realize you really don't have enough to fill a video in, so you'll have to sit through all the other footage from the trip instead, which was a lot more optimistic anyway. So for now, I'll tell you about how this might be the worst flight I've ever been on. So a bit about the flight itself. We booked this back in March, and it was marketed as a normal Air Transat flight just from Rome to Toronto. So we went ahead and bought that. We paid about $600 each. And about a month into our booking, we got another email from Air Transat saying, okay, now you're going to be operated by Smartlynx Airlines. And we weren't too sure at first what that meant, so I looked into it, and it looks like it was just leased aircraft to Air Transat, which I've seen before. I flew flights like that before, and there wasn't much we could do anyway, so we decided to just go along with it and see what happens. Well, it turns out if you go to Air Transat's website, they advertise their new interiors and their wonderful A330s, and then at the bottom they show that there's more people shoved into these Smartlynx planes than the standard Air Transat planes. And unfortunately, you lose a lot of legroom, and this was probably less legroom than any domestic flight I've been on, any short haul flight. It was absolutely ridiculous for what was a 9 hours and 45 minutes flight. I just say 10 hours because you're sitting on the plane for over 10 hours with taxiing and everything. So first off, with the interior, Air Transat itself I flew with about 11 years ago, and it was nice. The seats had plenty of legroom, there were TVs in the seats, nothing felt budget about the flight. It seemed like a normal competing airline with, say, Air Canada or WestJet or Sunwing. And some of the footage seen here is from Air Transat advertising back in 2012 what their new interiors looked like. And now in 2023 with these Smartlynx planes, it's like going back to the late 90s or early 2000s. But even those planes had the TVs in the aisle, there was usually a movie playing on them or something, but this was as bare bones as I could imagine. And then to couple that with a 10-hour flight, it was absolutely miserable. So the legroom had us with about maybe 1 inch at the most for our legs, and the width of the seats was also very tight, especially once the food came out. Me and my girlfriend had to stack our arms essentially, just so we could both fit. And no, we're not big people, so it was pretty mind-blowing to see how tight this flight was, considering it was a transatlantic flight. It was also the first flight I've been on that had absolutely no air vents above the seats. Now, I know this is a feature on some other newer planes, but we were all overheating, even the one girl we didn't know next to us. So moving on to the food, it was a new vendor, as the staff said, and they weren't even sure what we were really getting. They just said beef or chicken, and the beef was this kind of instant noodle dish, and the chicken was one of the hottest chicken curries I've ever had. It was definitely the hottest airline food I've ever had, and I was shocked that a Canadian airline would offer that as their main chicken course, seeing as most people would probably default to that. And I like spicy food, I like hot food, but for a flight like this, it was, I know for a fact a lot of people would not be able to handle this level of heat. And on top of that, the food took about 3 to 4 hours to come out because they said their oven was malfunctioning, so it took them extra time, which, okay, that's not too bad. It's not their fault the oven's broken. But when we finished our meals, it took over an hour and a half for them to come by and clean up everyone's meals. So we were sitting with this garbage tray stuck to us, overheating, in the tightest seat I've ever been on. And people were starting to get antsy and panicky, and we all had to just get up and move our garbage and just go walk around. It was absolutely ridiculous for a flight like this. So moving on to the in-flight entertainment, or what was claimed to be the in-flight entertainment, they said they had Wi-Fi, and initially we could not connect. It took about an hour into the flight for us to talk to one flight attendant. She said she had to reset the Wi-Fi modem. And she did, and it worked. And then we were able to connect and watch TV, play some games. There was no internet itself, and view the in-flight map, which you can see here. It's a map, no plane on it. There was never a plane. We never had any idea where we were for those whole 10 hours. It was very strange. So I don't know what happened there, whoever programmed this. We were able to get about 3 hours of Wi-Fi usage before the modem died again, and then we asked another flight attendant to restart it just like the previous one did, and she said, oh no, I can't, there's no such thing. We'd have to wait for the flight to stop and blah blah blah. So I don't really know what they were doing behind the scenes, but we weren't able to watch TV or play any games or anything at that point. So it's one of those moments where you just stare at the seat in front of you and count the stitches on the seat, because there was still over half the flight to go at that point. So overall, I could not really recommend flying with Air Transat for a European flight, because they can pull the rug out and say, okay, we're switching you to one of our Smartlynx planes now, and they are absolutely miserable to fly on. I've flown Condor, Lufthansa, Air Canada, KLM, Finnair, and they've all been great, but this was awful. So not too much to conclude with here, but just to make more people aware that when you fly with Air Transat, especially lately, as of June 2023, this could be what you might have to go up against. So I hope you found this video helpful and useful, and if you have any comments or similar experiences to this, like yourself, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear more about it. I haven't seen too much discussion online yet about this Smartlynx Air Transat partnership. So if you've liked this video, please like, subscribe, of course. If you didn't, then don't. And I'll see you all next time.